Okay, so good day, class. So let's start our lecture again for building tech 3. I think I have already given last week your requirements for this course. So the deadline will be on March 15th or 18th something. So just review what I have posted. Okay, so I'm going to discuss this week from steel beams and connections. So we'll discuss about open web steel joist up to metal decking. So these are materials class. We can from review materials for the architecture board exam. I chose this PowerPoint because I think it will be helpful for you to learn. And it will also prepare you someday. Okay, so let's start with steel beams. So steel beams may be rolled in the shape of the letter I. So that's what you call I-beam. So if you look here, so this is what an I-beam looks like. So channel beams or angles, beams of T-shape were formerly used but have now been restricted to minor uses. The I-beam is the ideal type of steel beam. The horizontal portion is the web. Channels are sections of this shape. They vary in depth from 3 inches to 15 inches and in weight from 4.1 pounds per square foot to 55 pounds per square foot. Okay, so as you've noticed class, there's a description of its depth, also description of its weight. So what are its implications? So the weight of the beam class and the weight of the metal, it also helps or is an important factor to consider when designing the structural um, component of your building. So that's why the weight is specified and also the sizes. Let's go to girders. So girders may be built up of angles and plates riveted together for long spans and for unusual cases of very heavy loading. So there are two types of girders. You have the plate girder and then the box girder. So a plate girder, this one, is a beam composed of a wide plate known as a web at the top, okay, and of which are riveted angles and plates. The simplest type of plate girder consists of a web and 4 flange angles. If this does not give sufficient flange area, cover plates may be added. So the web may be frequently reinforced against buckling by angles riveted to its side known as stiffener angles. So like this one. Okay, so there are 4 of it. Then what you call also what you call the box girder, which is a built-up beam in which more than one web plate is used. So beams and girders may be connected to columns by either seated connections or framed connections. So, in a seated connection, the bottom flange of the beam rests on and is filled riveted to an angle shaft riveted to the flange or web of the column. Another angle is filled riveted to the column and to the top flange of the beam. So in a frame connection, the web of the beam or girder is connected by angles or by gusset plates to the column. So in frame connections, angle seats are usually shaft riveted to the columns to hold the beam or girder during erection. So these are examples of steel beam connection. So what you have, we also have what you call movement connection with AISC type 1, it's called a rigid frame connection. So you're able to hold the original angle under loading by developing a specified resisting moment, usually by means of plates welded or bolted to the beam flanges and supporting column. So you have here these stiffener plates welded to the column. You have here the beam welded to the plates and bolted to the job. And you have here the stiffener is the backing bar, the shear bolts, the top and bottom flanges welded to the column, the top plate welded to the column and bolted to a web beam. Okay, another example is here. You have the shear tab welded to column and bolted to beam web, and erection seat angle, then welded all around. Okay, then stiffener plates welded to the column and bolted the beam flanges. So it's welded all around. Okay, then let's move to open web steel joists. So open web steel joists are lightweight, shop fabricated steel members having a trussed web. So a K series joist has a web consisting of a single bent bar running in a zigzag pattern between the upper and lower chords. The LH and DLH series joists have heavier web and cord members and are used for increased load and spans. So it's a reinforced concrete or masonry bearing wall. This is your steel beam or girder. This is your horizontal diagonal bridging to prevent lateral movement of joist cords. This is your diagonal bridging angles or LH DLH series joist. Okay. Then you have metal decking. So metal decking are corrugated steel panels used as a working platform during construction and eventually as formwork for site cast concrete slab. So the decking panels are secured with paddle welds or shield welded through the decking to support steel joists or beams. The panels are fastened to each other along their sides with screws, weld, or button punching standing seams. So the deck is to serve as a structural diaphragm and transfer lateral loads to shear walls. Its entire perimeter is welded to steel supports. In addition, more stringent requirements to support and a side lap fastening may apply. So there are three major types of metal. So this is your steel deck class. So in my experience, I think steel deck it's really convenient because I think it's stronger. And then most companies who provide steel decking, they already have computations for the different loads. So it will be easier to call this, coordinate with them, especially the structural engineers, because the data are already available. Then you have another example, which is form decking, which serves as a permanent formwork for a reinforced concrete slab until the slab can support itself and its live load. Here is an example. Then you have the composite decking, so it serves as a tensile reinforcement for the concrete slab to which it is bonded with embossed rib pattern. So composite action between the concrete slab and the floor beams or joists can be achieved by welding shear studs through the decking to the supporting beam below. Then what you have here is what you call cellular decking, which is manufactured by welding a corrugated sheet to a flat steel sheet, forming a series of spaces or raceways for electrical and communications wiring. Special cutouts are available for floor outlets, so the decking may serve as an acoustic ceiling when the perforated cells are filled with glass fiber. Okay, so let's reserve steel trusses class for next meeting. So I hope that you're going to familiarize yourselves with the different steel connections. Um, in my experience, what I usually do is do some composite combinations between concrete and steel. But if to do that, you'll need to coordinate with your structural engineer, of course. Okay, so see you next meeting class. And if you have any questions or clarifications, don't hesitate to send an email or message me on Facebook. Okay, then don't forget to do your activities because it's really important, class, that you in this subject that you master um, all the different um, construction drawings for the project. Okay, so see you next meeting and stay safe.